In fact, we're not the same. We do differ, but yet we say we're equal. Well, I think what that shows is that the principle of equality is not a principle of factual equality, but a moral principle that is essentially saying all humans have interests, and it's irrelevant to how we should consider those interests, whether that human is male or female, black or white, Christian or Muslim, or any other differences that you might have. If that's the principle that lies behind our very important idea that all humans are equal, then we have to say, well, non-human animals have interests too, and those interests should also be equally considered. That means not necessarily that animals ought to be treated equally with humans, because their interests will differ.
It's their opinion that it is morally wrong. I guess as a producer of animal foods, my opinion is that it is not wrong. They have been proven from many, many different sides to be very beneficial to humans. I believe that we're not necessarily that we aren't doing anything ethically wrong or morally wrong. I don't know how maybe to necessarily say why we are right and we are wrong. We are fulfilling a demand.
This whole concern is trivialized and ridiculed, which keeps it out of discussion. If they never regard this as a serious subject, then of course they never have to deal with it, do they? So that's one of the self-protective devices that the larger society really uses to keep from having to address what we would call the animal question, which is the whole question of our relations with animals. How are they to be used, if at all? What are the terms of trade to be with the animal part of the natural world?
Hush, boy, don't you cry. Go to sleep, little baby. When you wake, you shall have all the pretty little horses.
We're marginalized, we're ridiculed, we're reduced. The stereotype of an animal rights person, a vegetarian, is somebody who's kind of loony, you know, of the fringe.
Way down yonder in the meadow lies a poor little lammy, beyond the playa picking at his side. Poor little thing crying, man.
The movement into violence was a serious mistake. That very, very tiny movement, maybe the number of people involved you could count on the fingers of your hand out of all the millions involved in the movement. It's wrong because it's going to hurt people, and it's stupid because it's going to lose the sympathy of the public.
On the one hand, we're terrorists who are blowing up things left and right when really we're not. And on the other, we're Bambi lovers who just saw that movie one time too many and became all emotional.
Don't you cry. Go to sleep, little baby. When you wake, you shall have all the pretty little roses. Flaxen bay, dapple and gray.
Initiatives by the animal rights industry inflame emotions and get people feeling guilty about eating meat. By using this emotional approach, rational thinking is dissolved.
And what helps us make choices is not always because rationally or analytically this is the best thing to do. What helps us make those choices is that we feel about those things. We feel about life itself. We have emotion and we care and we love life itself. That is entirely human. That is fully human. that is fully using our gifts as it was intended.
By using emotional tactics, they've hit the nerves. I would say that the agriculture and the food production side take a let's be accurate, let's give the facts, let's be consistent in our information, and not fall into that trap of inflaming or heightening emotions.
Well, basically, we say sheep, like buffaloes with cones, and the little meat on the back of their heads and stuff.
Okay.
We want to say you are eating a dead animal. This is a dead animal's corpse. Whenever we say that, what's interesting is that we're accused of being emotional. All we're doing is stating the truth. But the truth is, has an emotional quality about it. The truth is not something that we would rationally want to encounter. I am eating a dead body? Who would want to be eating dead bodies? I think one reason that we have such difficulty bringing the issue of meat to a consciousness is because food itself isn't supposed to be too closely analyzed. A meal has a beginning, a middle, and an end. It begins with soup. It doesn't begin with dessert. And then the entree is meat with its accoutrements. So when you disturb that meal, you are disturbing not only the meal, but whatever that meal represents. But vegetarians come along and they say, oh, take out the center of the meal. And people think, what's there to eat? In fact, back in 1974, the New York Times Magazine did a thing on Thanksgiving with a Conscience. And all it showed were 2 peas, 5 pieces of rice, and one other little thing. But this was a meat eater's nightmare. The Thanksgiving with a Conscience was barely eating. So in fact, right now I'm working on a book called Living Among Meat Eaters, because I've now realized that most of us thought that becoming vegetarians, the hard part was the nutritional. And now we all know that's not the hard part of vegetarianism. It's very easy to live without animal products, without dead animals. You can have delicious food, wonderful cakes, without eggs, without milk. We don't need it. The difficulty has not been the nutritional issue. The difficulty has been the social issue. How do we interact with this immense commitment to eating animals?
If you believe that you do not wish to eat meat, you're entitled to that belief.
We've got a big commitment in our culture to maximizing pleasure. And suddenly we're coming along and we look like we're Puritan neo-Orthodox, saying you can't have that pleasure.
Others believe that and want to eat meat. You should respect that person's beliefs as well.
My response is that pleasure is a result of privilege. That pleasure is harm. What you see as pleasure is somebody else's harm.
Which came first, the demand of consumers for a particular type of product? Do you think that demand came first, people asking for more and more of this particular type of animal, and the industry responding to that market demand? We have to go back to society and say, what is it that society is asked for?
In the 1950s, great pressure was put on producers, the farming community in general. Cheap food, that was all that mattered, cheap food. And for goodness sake, no one achieved that better than animal agriculture.
The startup cost of a typical large animal slaughter plant would be $50 million and upwards. the cost of construction of these places just gone straight up.